Today we're testing the latest trending TikTok recipes. The idea sounds simple enough, but their execution is insane. So let's see which ones are genius and which ones should just stay on the internet. Let's start with these strawberry Nutella stuffed pancakes, which sounds normal enough these days until you see how they flip it. The filling goes in the most chaotic way, and I genuinely am not convinced I can pull this off, but let's try. So for the batter, we're gonna mix our dry ingredients first. I have flour, sugar, a little bit of salt, baking powder. Let's give it a mix. And now for the wet ingredients, I have some milk. I'll just pop in an egg, butter, vanilla, and pour it into the dry ingredients. And we'll mix it again until the batter comes together. So her batter looks pretty loose, not too lumpy. So I think this looks like it could be the right consistency. Pancake batter is done. That part was the piece of cake. And now comes the hardest part. I've got my pan, and for extra insurance, I'm gonna butter it. And now let's make what somebody called a pancake calzone. We'll turn on the heat, pour in the pancake batter, and I'm not really sure how long to wait, but I think the bottom needs to set a little bit. I'm starting to see bubbles around the edge, so we might be getting close. Okay, now we're getting bigger bubbles on the inside, and this is where it's gonna get wild because using my rubber spatula, I'm gonna try to lift it up so a second pancake forms, and acting really fast, I have to throw in the strawberries and with one single hand pour in the Nutella. Oh my gosh, it's breaking. Maybe this recipe is trending because this is nearly impossible to do. No! Let's let this batter just form together real quick. There's no way this is gonna cover. And then she tries to form it into a nice little circular pattern. Oh my gosh, hers look way too perfect. Mine is just a mess. Final flip. Oh my gosh, that looks like a very sad omelet. Now let's let it finish cooking. Mine looks nothing like hers. And the trick is to let it cook all the way through because people in the comments were all saying it's still raw in the middle. Oh no. Now let's slide the pancake onto a plate. That is one giant pancake, and it looks more like an omelet than it does a pancake. So I'm gonna dress it with some more strawberries, and of course we need some maple syrup. Is it cooked or raw? I say it's cooked enough. Somebody said the raw part's the best part, but was this genius or just a waste of time? Honestly, the pancake tastes a little bit uneven. Some parts overcooked and some part is a little mushy because of the Nutella or the rawness of it. I thought this was a little complicated, and there's definitely easier ways to make stuffed pancakes, so I think this should just stay on the internet. 5 out of 10. But keep watching because I'm gonna see if the next few viral recipes deserve their trending status. This might be one of the strangest things that I've seen TikTok do to chocolate yet. People are pouring melted chocolate into a can of Pringles to make one giant block candy bar. Somebody said it's taking sweet and salty to a whole nother level. But I genuinely don't know who looked at a Pringles can and thought, this would be a great chocolate mold. But it's now one of the biggest trends on TikTok, so let's try it. Let's first start by melting our chocolate, and I'm gonna do the double boiler method because I feel like it makes it more pourable. Done. Nice and silky smooth. Now let's pop open our Pringle. And a lot of people tend to take out their Pringles and spread the chocolate on one by one, but I've also seen people just pour it straight in. I'm very curious to see if that actually works better. I'm gonna pour mine straight in. Let it rain chocolate. That looks pretty good. I feel like I need to give it a little bit of a shake just to make sure it goes through the side grooves. And now we just let it set in the fridge. Except I still have a lot of chocolate left over. And I was thinking we should make this 3 ways. And you know how in the last video where I made that Dubai burger, what could come up next? Well, what if we made Dubai Pringles? Let's pour in our pistachio cream. For this one, I'm gonna have to give it a good shake. And then we'll pour in our chocolate. And I wonder if the Pringles will be as good or better than the Karai. This time, I have some melted white chocolate. And you know what I was thinking? One of my favorite flavors in life is cookies and cream. So I'm gonna dump some Oreos in here and see if Oreos and Pringles will be a match made in heaven. Oh, the white chocolate is so thick. Cover it up, and we'll see these guys later. This next one feels illegal. Someone took bulldog ramen, wrapped it with some gooey cheese in rice paper, fried it, and called it a spicy little snack. I'm a little scared to try this one, but people are saying it's amazing, and that could be the case, or it can ruin the next 20 minutes of my life. So let's make it. So she starts off by cooking her noodles. So once the noodles look like they're cooked through, this is the type that you drain like pasta. And now we add in our seasoning packets. I'm I'm gonna start with the cheesy powder, and then we have the death sauce. She adds in the entire packet, and somebody said, how did you not die from the whole packet of sauce? But this is me watching her put in the whole thing, and I'm gonna say, nope, we're just gonna put in half. Is that enough? I'm scared. Okay, that's good. We just need a little bit of color. Oh yeah, that's nice and red. And now to turn it into spring rolls, she uses these rice paper wrappers. We have to wet them first. She starts by adding some shredded mozzarella cheese and then a nice little pile of the ramen right on top, and then rolls it like a spring roll, baby. Hey, that looks pretty good. But now she does another one with American cheese. And now to cook them off, she sprays her pan with a little bit of oil, and we're gonna lightly pan fry them. I'll do the ramen side first. So once one side is nice and golden brown, she goes ahead and flips it, except she does it with her fingers. And everyone in the comments were going crazy asking, how did you flip it with your fingers? Honestly, it doesn't feel that hot. It's doable. The mozzarella side looks fully melted, but the American cheese one needs a little bit of time. Transfer it to a plate and let them cool for a little bit, because then she garnishes it with some furikake, which doesn't really do much. And the interesting thing is she doesn't even bite into it, but I was exploring her page and saw this one, which is the same bulldog ramen spring rolls covered in panko and deep fried. Honestly, it looks like a Korean hot dog to me and looks so good. We have to try that version too. This one's gonna be nice and crispy. Oh.
Wow.
This looks absolutely amazing, but then we're not done because she garnishes it with a drizzle of Kewpie mayo, and then she uses more bulldog sauce, but I'm gonna use ketchup and some scallions. But first, let's try the original spring roll. I'm not being dramatic, but that sauce is really spicy, and even with half the packet, it's still fire. I really want to try this, but I'm traumatized and I'm scared, but I'll do it for you guys. Maybe the ketchup and the Kewpie mayo will cool things down a little bit. It's still really spicy, but I added a little surprise in there, so it actually helped just a little bit. Just a little. Bulldog spring roll gets 6 out of 10. We've seen the frozen Sprite gummy bears. I didn't like those. And we've also seen candy salads. I like those. But now someone combined those ideas to come up with a frozen sour gummy salad. And I have to know, is this version gonna give me that satisfying cold gummy crunch? She starts off by adding some of her favorite candies, and I've seen so many different versions, but the first one is a soft and sour Haribo. Now I'm gonna add one of my favorite sour gummy worms into the same container. And then I found these new nerd gummy clusters that have a juicy center. I feel like I wanna try this on its own first. They're not like Gushers so much where they have the juicy center. They're more like gummies covered nerd clusters. So that makes me think I still need to add the original. Let's add some Sour Punch straws and cut them smaller. And then I guess some regular gummy bears. Let's give our candy salad a quick toss. And finally, she scrunches up her sour strips into a little ribbon. So I'm gonna do that too. That's a good looking salad right there. But now let's cover it up and pop it in the freezer. Our candy salad should be nice and frozen now. And just from the sound of it, I think it's gonna be nice and crunchy. But which one am I gonna try first? How about our soft and sour Haribo? Is it gonna be too crunchy where it breaks my teeth, or is it gonna be perfect? If you just suck on it, the flavor is so good. And then the texture just kind of loosens up a little bit. I'm curious about the new nerd gummy clusters. Now I taste the juicy fruit inside. Frozen is way better than just out of the package. And since I brought this up earlier, a frozen gummy bear, is it better than a soaked frozen gummy bear? Oh, no, it's not. Just don't freeze your gummy bears. My final verdict on gummy bears, it just has no business being frozen. Just don't do it. And finally, the one I've been waiting for, are these gonna be crunchy like ribbon candies? Oh yeah. Frozen sour candy gummy salad gets 10 out of 10. Just don't do gummy bears. This next recipe looks like Madeleine cookies, where they're crispy and buttery on the outside, but inside they're soft and chewy like a mochi. They're called Korean butter thok, and they're all over TikTok right now. So obviously, I have to try it. So she says to get the best cookies, you have to follow her exact measurements. And so we measure everything. So into my bowl, we're gonna add an egg, which is apparently around 50 50 grams and not the 7 grams that she listed. Then we'll add some sugar, condensed milk. I love that condensed milk comes in this little packet now. Butter and salt, and just mix that up. Looks good. Now we have to pour in the milk, mix it one more time, and then we combine rice flour and tapioca starch. I'm not really sure what tapioca starch does to this. Batter is a little thin, but I'm just gonna try to get it nice and smooth. I think this looks good. And then for best results, she also says to use a rather shallow pan, and I found the exact same pan that she's using. So now we're gonna scrape it with a ton of butter. It is called butter tok, so lots of butter is necessary. Yeah, nothing's gonna stick to these molds. Now I'm gonna transfer the batter to a measuring cup, and then we're gonna fill our molds. And now it's time to pop these in the oven, except we have to bake them first at 400 for 10 minutes, and then lower it to 350 for another 20 minutes. I'm not really sure what happened, but it got so smoky in there, I am not trusting the process. We're gonna let these cool real quick and see if it actually is as good as they say. I think before we let it harden, I have to flip them over. One down, the rest to go. As they're cooling, they're really sticking to the pan, so it's almost harder to remove. So you gotta do it while it's hot. I left the second pan in for the time that it called for, and this one's actually turning out much better. It's a lot easier to take out when it's piping hot. A little bit burnt on the edges, but you get a nice, beautiful crust that'll hopefully be crunchy. Our cookies have cooled down. Now let's test the crunchy ASMR. Nice and hard. And comparing it to the one that I took out earlier, this one I'm sure will taste good, but it just doesn't have the same crunch. Somebody said butter mochi from Hawaii with a crispy edge. Sign me up. Let's give it a try. It's kind of like an edible squishy too, if you really think about it. But it's crunchy on the outside, it's slightly sweet and super chewy on the inside. I'd say this is probably just as good as those Dubai chewy cookies. I'm sorry I didn't trust the process. 8 out of 10. My favorite sushi order is a crispy rice tuna. So when I saw this creator make a crispy rice sushi taco, I thought it was kind of brilliant, and I can see why it's trending. Except now we need to test out if it's actually as good as it sounds. Okay, so she starts by cutting up her sushi nori, and I'm gonna use this small plate as a guide to cut the perfect circle. Not bad. And now to spread the sushi rice on the seaweed. I guess it's easier to spread it out with your fingers, but it does make it kind of smushed. My idea, take a little rice paddle, scoop your rice onto the seaweed. Now add a little drop of sesame oil, extra flavor and lubrication, and spread. Perfect! My grains don't look too mushed, and it's gonna get even crispier in the oven. But now she transfers her taco shells onto a parchment paper and into the oven. So while our crispy rice is baking, I'm gonna prep our fish. I have sashimi grade salmon here that I need to skin. Good thing I have the world's sharpest knife to do the job. And since my favorite order is with tuna, let's make a tuna one. Our crispy rice shells are done, and now we're gonna fold it up and fill it. While it's warm, I think it's the best time to fold it into the taco shape. And once they're cool enough to handle, she spreads cream cheese inside the shell, layers the salmon, avocado. I don't have any sriracha mayo mixed together already, but I'm just gonna put a tiny little drip of sriracha and a drizzle of Kewpie mayo and some green onions. And finally, we're gonna garnish it with a hit of sesame seeds. And since I prefer tuna, let's make one of those. And here's our crispy rice sushi tacos. Let's see if it could be better than the real thing. The rice has a nice crunch to it. I love that it's a lot bigger than a normal crispy rice sushi, but it's missing one thing. A little bit of soy sauce, and this one already has sesame oil. And somebody said what we're saying is that a sushi crunch wrap supreme should be a thing, and I'm gonna have to agree. This was pretty delicious, and I love that it's bigger and almost better in every way. This should be a thing, and I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10. It's the next day, and our chocolate Pringles blocks have solidified, and now we're gonna unwrap them. People have the most crazy ways to unwrap these because they just kind of peel off the outer layer of the cardboard, but how? I think I'm gonna need some help. And we just peel. Whoa! Okay, so the good news is that the chocolate solidified. The bad news is that the Dubai part didn't. Just gonna leave this one right here while we look at the other ones. Solid. And our cookies and cream kind of looks like a candle. But now the part where everybody struggles is to cut them. So let me see if I can get a good slice. First one, failed. They do look cool though, and I'd say this is a good enough piece for us to try. It actually looks really cool though because the chocolate layers got in between the Pringles on its own. Let's see if sweet and salty is the way to go. Okay, let's try cookies and cream. I'm gonna try to see if I can get a better slice with a serrated knife. Slightly easier, still not great. Now let's see how the Dubai chocolate tastes. Ooh, so close. This one looks so pretty. The Dubai chocolate tastes the best. I love the sweet and saltiness of the cookies and cream. Pringles and Oreos do in fact go together, but this just tasted kind of plain to me, and I honestly don't get the hype with just the chocolate. So I'm gonna give the Pringles chocolate block 6 out of 10, and these two, 7 out of 10. Two of my favorite foods are pizza and Caesar salad. They're a lunch staple, but somebody's mom combined the two to make a Caesar salad wrap, except in the craziest way possible. From the video, it looks like the pizza is made on like a tortilla or a flatbread, except it's not, because the base of it is actually made from just mozzarella cheese. So she starts by adding some mozzarella cheese onto a baking pan. She spreads it out into a thin layer like this. And then on top of that, she adds pepperoni slices. Somebody said, people show me every day I'm not using my free will enough. This is pretty crazy if it works, but now let's bake it up for about 15 minutes so the cheese is nice and gooey and bubbly. And while our cheese is baking, let's prep our Caesar salad. She only had spinach this day, but I have a whole head of romaine. I'm gonna cut off the ends and then make a little cut here, flip it over, make a cut here, and chop. We'll stop there. I always have some homemade Caesar dressing on hand, so let's pour it over, give it a good toss. And just in time to pull out the cheese. We're gonna let it cool for 3 to 5 minutes to firm up, and then we're gonna take a paper towel and blot it to absorb all that grease. Now let's transfer the cheese wrap off of the parchment onto our cutting board. It's like soft and flexible, but I don't think it's firm enough yet, so I'm gonna let it cool on this side. Now let's add our Caesar salad. I think that's as much as it can carry. Fold it over like a taco. And my favorite part of the wrap is the cross section. It definitely doesn't hold as well as a tortilla. The lettuce is all falling out. Let's bite into it real quick. The cheese skirt is nice and crispy, but the wrap itself reminds me of a more chewy tortilla, and you get that pepperoni flavor mixed with Caesar salad. Tell your mom she's a genius for inventing this, because I would give this a 9 out of 10. At this point, I've learned that the internet loves dumplings. From soup dumplings to lasagna dumplings, we even got dessert dumplings. But now we have something called blanket dumplings. And what are blanket dumplings, you might ask? Well, let me show you. Apparently, it's also in one pan because this creator starts by dumping her meat straight into a cast iron pan. And she says cast iron pan gives the best results. Then she adds some green onions, and then on the side, she has ginger and peppercorn, in which she adds hot water to. Lets it sit there for a second while we finish seasoning our meat. With soy sauce, she uses 2 different types of soy sauce, dark and light, sesame oil, and a little bit of salt. Now she goes in with her hands to mix the meat. I've never done this before, but maybe it should be my new cleanup hack. Minimize the dishes. This is like one giant meatball for a giant dumpling. And now with a mini strainer, we're gonna pour in our tea. Whoa, it's very aromatic. And now we just stir it and mix it with the pork. This feels like a lot of water, and I really want to dump some out, but I have to trust this process and keep going. The meat looks like mush, but now she separates them into little meatballs straight in the pan. Somebody said, oh, you mean literally one pan. Wow. She made it look so easy to divide up. I do feel like my little meatballs are too big, so I gotta make them smaller. I've successfully divided them up into meatballs. And this is where that term blanket dumplings come in, because we're gonna cover each dumpling with the blanket wrapper. All she takes is a wonton wrapper, covers it on the meatball, get it nice and snug. If this works, it definitely beats wrapping them individually. So once she's done covering them with the blanket, she takes a little bit of oil, drizzles it over, and then adds in some water to cook. Apparently, we're gonna have to do this 3 times and just cover it to steam. It looks like most of the water has evaporated, so I'm gonna take the lid off and let it finish crisping up. I think our dumplings should be done. Somebody said, okay, this looks so much better than the dumpling lasagna, but it was too meaty for my liking. And this one was pretty meaty. So let's see if it's as crispy and delicious as everyone says in the comments. She used a chopstick to get it out, but I'm gonna use a spoon. And we're gonna see, is this gonna be more like a soup dumpling or a pot sticker? It actually lifts up with the spoon quite easily, so I'm gonna switch back to my chopsticks. The blanket from the wrapper doesn't exactly cling to it because there was was like a little air bubble from the steaming process. So it just kind of flops around like this. But that's okay. Let's dip it in her sauce, which is just soy sauce and black vinegar. And let's see if this is any good. I should have just taken one small bite because that was piping hot, but it was delicious. It was somewhere in between a pot sticker and a little bit of a soup dumpling because it was super juicy but crispy at the same time. I think I might like this method a little better than the dumpling lasagna, and I'm gonna give blanket dumplings an 8 out of 10. But if you like this recipe, go watch me test more trending TikTok recipes. Bye!